Welcome to the first ever video tutorial of the channel. I'm super excited about this, and today we're going to build an AI agent which is going to do comprehensive competitor analysis for virtually any product or service. This is something that product and marketing teams do on a daily basis, and sometimes it takes them even a couple of days to do this if they have to do a very detailed research. So, by the end of this video, you will know exactly how to build an AI agent which can do competitor analysis. So, yeah, this is our agent, and it's super simple to use this. I'll just enter the company's name, for example, NVIDIA, and I'll just enter my email address, click on submit form, and it will just do its thing right away. So we've basically got an AI agent, which has the OpenAI chat model as the reasoning engine for this. And it has got a couple of tools that I'll just dive into in a bit. And as soon as it does all of this computation, it should just send us an email with the competitor analysis report, which has all of the details about our competitors, their latest news, and what recently happened related to the company. All right, so now it has sent the email from our workflow. I'll quickly go to our email, just hit refresh. Right, so this is our research report for NVIDIA, and it has the non-obvious companies which are competitors of NVIDIA. So we've got Grok, you've got Cerebral Systems, you've got AMD, and you've got very intricate details like, for example, H-1B visa data as well, right? So Cerebral Systems, for example, has a lot of sponsored H-1B visas, and this means that they're hiring international talent. So this is something that would take a human maybe a couple of days to do, but this roughly takes a little over a minute to do this, and you get this email. You can also schedule this email for your competitors to just run it every week or every month so that you can just keep a tab on what your competition is doing. Now that we've seen what this workflow does and what this agent does, let's just get into the nuts and bolts of this. I'll quickly tell you what all of this is about, and then we'll step by step dive into every single node and see how to build this. So firstly, we need a trigger to basically trigger this agent. And it can be multiple things. It's very easy to add a trigger from the right bar. You can click the plus button and you can go to add triggers. So there are multiple ways to trigger a workflow. You can trigger it manually on the click of a button. I just used a form trigger because this feels pretty natural, pretty easy to do. But you can schedule this. You can have it connected to WhatsApp or Slack or any of those triggers so that the agent can respond to you maybe in the chat workflow as well. So we use the n8n form trigger. If I open this up, I have a local version of n8n.io set up, and that's why it is giving me this test URL. I don't need any authentication at all. The form path basically tells me the URL on which this will be hosted. It is optional. You can just set it if you want. This is the form title. This is the thing that I want to show up in the title when I open this form, and this is the description. For the form fields, as you earlier saw, we need to know the company name, and we also need to know the email address of the user so that we can send them an email. So yeah, and as soon as the form is submitted, this workflow triggers itself and then passes a trigger to the next node, which then does its own thing. I just completed this. So I added the company name NVIDIA, and this was my email address, and this was submitted at this time. So this is what it is outputting from this node. And the output from this node goes to this AI agent. And this is where things get a little more complicated. So to understand an agent, let me quickly just pull up an AI agent and show you what it is. So let's just have a blank AI agent here. So basically, let's just have it as a separate agent here. So this is a very basic AI agent, and it has three components to it. The first one is the chat model. You can use any of these chat models. The leading chat models are here. And each of these have their own pros and cons. For example, Grok is like super fast in terms of inference, but OpenAI really shines at reasoning. So I've used OpenAI GPT-4o, and that is what I would use as a chat model in most agents because, in my experience, this has the best reasoning capability. All right, so this is the chat model. And our chat model is basically an OpenAI chat model, and we've set up the credentials. To set these credentials up, you need to go to OpenAI and just get the OpenAI key. It's a very easy process to just create credentials on the OpenAI chat model. Once you've done it on your local installation, you can use it in multiple nodes as well. And in terms of model, I've just used GPT-4o mini because this gets the job done for me. But if you wanted to perform better or have a maybe a harder use case, you can use GPT-4o or any other model as well. So yeah, you can just play around with it and see what gets you the best output, and that'll really help you nail down what you need to use. So this is the first component, the chat model. The second component is the memory part. Memory essentially helps the AI agent keep your conversation in mind when it is responding to you next. So, for example, if I needed a flow where I wanted to see the output report from like all of the for my competition, but I wasn't really happy with the report. Maybe it was too complex or like it had a lot of detail, and I just wanted to summarize that report. And I wanted to have an interaction interface. I would just make this more concise, and the agent would know that I'm talking about the previous messages because it would have some memory. Memory is super easy to add. You can use window buffer memory. It's super easy to add. You can just have the context window length. You can just tell the model how many past messages do you need to record and keep in consideration, and it'll just do that. Yeah, so this is the window buffer memory. And thirdly, the tools. Like every agent that we're going to build, this is a very basic agent that we built right now, but in the future, every agent that we're going to build we're going to give it a set of tools to just do its thing. And we're going to use some prompts on the agent side to tell it how to use those tools and when to use them. But basically, as many tools as we add, that just becomes the agent's toolkit, and the agent can use those to answer questions and to get things done. So, for example, in our case, we've got two tools. These are perplexity-based tools, and I'll quickly show you in a bit how to do that. So yeah, so for example, if we were building an agent to which we could just give two sports teams, and we just ask it to get us all of the historical matches that the teams have played with each other. We would give it a tool for crawling a sports website. We would give it a tool for comprehending and processing that data, most probably an OpenAI API. And then thirdly, we'd give it a Google Sheets tool so that once it has done all of that, it can just write all of that data to a Google Sheet that we can just check out to see the data. So tools basically we're going to be using a lot of tools in the future. And with an AI agent, you can have a lot of tools. You can have Airtable, Gmail tools, calendar tools to book meetings, Google Docs tool to basically write a document, Hacker News tool to just connect with the Hacker News API. So a lot of these things are already here. These guys at N10 are very actively building these tools as well. And every other day, they're just building more tools. Every other day, they're building more connectors as well. So it'll hopefully be getting more coverage in the coming months. Yeah, so this is for the tools. And this is the output node for this AI agent. So whatever happens inside the agent, once it is done, it will pass on the output to the output node. And in the output node, we can do anything that we want from it. So for example, over here, we've just connected a Gmail node, which is going to send a message. So yeah, this is basically an AI agent. So yeah, let's just get back to our own. Let's just delete this first and get back to our own agent. This is the OpenAI chat model. We've connected our own credentials, super easy to do. We have selected our own model. We don't need to add any extra options right now because this is just a demo. This works. And the tools we've connected are interesting. So if I told you earlier that we use Perplexity for finding the competitors list and doing the company research, but if I go here and click on tool, you would see that there is no Perplexity tool over here. So in the case where whatever tool you want to use is not there, then you've got to connect to the tool using an API, right? And this is something that is going to be a little difficult for people who don't have a coding background, but I'll hopefully try to make it easy for you guys to just give you an idea of how easy it is to connect to an API. So for example, let's just search Perplexity API. I've got this result. I click on Perplexity API and I go to API reference, and this is the chat completion API, and this is the only API that they have, right? And it's super easy to consume. Don't get intimidated by it because it looks like code, but it's actually not code. It is just a way to structure data. So what this essentially means is all we need to do is we need to send this string, this JSON object to Perplexity, and we will get a response from Perplexity in return. So for example, we've asked how many stars are there in our galaxy, and Perplexity is going to respond the number of stars in the galaxy are, etc., etc. So yeah, so what we essentially need to do is we just need to copy this payload, get it to give it to our tool, and it should be able to consume that for us. And how do we really do that is by adding a new node, which is a request, HTTP request. Since we're working with an AI agent, we would make an HTTP request tool. So let's just add a HTTP request tool, and we can give it a description. We can have a method here. We can have the URL and add authentication and the body and whatnot. So super easy to do. Let me just open up what we've already done. So this is our competitor list tool, and this is what I've configured to talk to Perplexity. And I'll show you how we filled the fields from Perplexity's API over here, so that these can fit together, and we can see we can be sure that our tool is talking to Perplexity easily. In the description part, I just wrote get a list of competitors for a specific company. This tool takes the query as an input. Over here we've got query. There is a way for us to tell the tool what to expect as an input, and I'll quickly show you about that as well. Then it is asking you about the method. It could be post, put, patch, get, delete. We're not really sure where to get this from. So we'll go back to the Perplexity API, and it says post over here. So this is the method, and we'll just use post. Then we've got the URL. Go back to the API, see what the URL is. It is, if you scroll ahead, so this is the URL, right? On the right, you'll see we've just copied this URL from here, and we've pasted it to the HTTP request URL part. For authentication, we're using credential types. We're using a general credential type. We have got an authentication header and header auth account that we've set up. You can do it in multiple ways. You can just hard code it as well. But basically, over here, you'll see that in headers, you've got authorization and bearer and token. So you can easily set it up in NA10. Let me quickly show you how to do that. So if I click on header auth, I already have set it up. But if I were to set up a new one, I would just say create new account. The name would be authorization, and the value would be, let's just see from the API. The value is bearer token, right? It would be bearer token, bearer space and token. Yeah, right? It would be something like this. Where do we really get the token? We'll get the token from Perplexity's Perplexity AI's API. You go to Perplexity and just a minute. You click on settings, and then you go to the API part. On the API screen, you've got to add your credit card, and on the bottom over here, you'll see the API keys. If you don't already have them, you can just generate a new one, and it'll just show up your API key over here. You can copy this part from here and paste it into your authentication account. Yeah, create new credential, authorization, bearer and BEARER space, and you'll just paste the Perplexity key. And this will make sure that you are connecting to Perplexity using your own key. I know it might be a little hard to understand right now, but if you do this 4 to 5 times, it'll be very easy for you to add authentication to basically any API. So yeah, we've done this part. And if you were to scroll down, it says send query parameters, no. Send headers, no. Send body, yes. So let's just open another tool, and let me just show you how a blank tool looks like. Request tool. Yeah, this is what a blank tool looks like. and it has all of these three unchecked. So if I click on this, whether the request has body or not, yes, we want to send a body. The body is basically the part in which we'll send it the payload. So yeah, send the body. And when we enable that, it will ask us what kind of body do you need to send. So it's either using the fields below, using the JSON below, or let the model specify the entire body. So no, we'll not let the model specify it. We're going to use the JSON below because Perplexity expects a certain structure from us, the one that it showed us in its API. So I'll just click on use JSON below, and I'll just paste the whole JSON that I copied from the payload. So yeah, this is basically the whole JSON. I'll just copy it from here, and I'll just paste it in over here. That's what I did. So yeah, all of it is pasted here except for just one part. One thing that you'll notice here is that it is saying how many stars are there in our galaxy. So if I were to copy it 100%, it would just basically answer that. And we don't want it to do that. We want it to be wired to the chat model, and we want it to just answer whatever we ask it. So rather than having how many stars are there in our galaxy, I have put a bracket query here. And the reason why I've done that is because I've mentioned in the top that this tool takes the query as an input. So yeah, here's the query. And B, on the bottom, we've got placeholder definition that I'll get to in a bit. So yeah, basically I've just written a bracket and then query here. And it says, use a bracket placeholder for any data that has to be filled in by the model. I want the string or the value for this part to be filled by the model, the AI agent model dynamically, rather than us having to give it us having to hard code this. Because if somebody's searching for NVIDIA, we need to find NVIDIA's competitors. For Mercedes, we need to find Mercedes competitors. There's this. I'm not tinkering with anything else. All of that, yeah, we'll just leave it as it is. And yeah, that's what I've done. I've done query. And if you, again, compare an empty tool, so let's say request tool. If you compare an empty tool, you will see that the placeholder definitions are empty. But I've got to write it because I'm telling the node that we'll need a query parameter from the previous node, but I haven't mentioned what it will look like. So I go to placeholder definitions, I name the placeholder query, and I tell the model what it is used for. This is the user's query for finding competitors. For example, direct competitors of Nissan would be a good way to ask this query. It has the type of string, and yeah, that's basically it. Once you've done this, at this point, this tool is wired to your AI agent. The AI agent knows that this tool can be used to get a list of competitors for a specific company. And this tool takes the query parameter as an input. And it knows that the query parameter has to be used for finding competitors. And it also knows the example text that it can send, right? So at this point, the model knows how it can utilize this tool. The same thing is repeated for the company research tool as well. So I've just written like get the most recent news on a company. This is what this specific tool does. It has all of the other things are 100% same from our other tool, except that the instructions to this tool are a little different. So our AI agent knows that it can use this specific tool for the most recent news on a company. Whenever it needs news on a specific company, it'll do that. It'll use this tool. Same thing as that, send body, and you'll see everything is the same. And we've got the content query over here as well. The placeholder name is also query, but the description is a little different because this is the query that a model can do to find details about any company. And yeah, make sure you include the company name and its location for making this more accurate. So yeah, the instructions to the query that is used in this specific tool is different from the one that we've used in the other one. So that's why we need to be sure that we're telling the model how important it is, how it is different from the other one. So yeah, this basically creates two tools for us. Both of the tools can talk to Perplexity. They can get something as an input and give it something as an output. And our AI agent can use these multiple times if it wants to. For example, in this last run, when we added NVIDIA, it ran the get competitor list once. The query was direct competitors of NVIDIA, and this was the response that it got. We don't really need to, I mean, like if you want to look at it in detail, we can do that. So just a moment. Let me just copy it and see it in online JSON viewer, right? Yeah, let's just paste it in here. Just a moment. I just copy it from here, paste it in here. Let me just copy all of it and paste it in an online JSON viewer. I told you guys this was a JSON formatted. So basically, we're getting the response, and in the response, we're getting something like this. It says, yeah, one thing, you need to be really sure that you're not overwhelmed by this, because if you do it 4 to 5 times, it'll all start making sense to you. This JSON is basically a very efficient data structure that can be used for computers to talk to each other. This really helps them understand what one system is doing and what it's expecting and how it is going to respond to us. So yeah, if I make this a little more readable, you'll see that we've got all of those things. And then finally, we've got content. In the content part, we've got Samba Nova systems, Croc, Cerebus systems, AMD, Intel, AWS, and everything. But the great thing is you don't need to worry about these competitors being lost deeper in that JSON structure. You just need to you can just let the AI agent do its thing. It knows where to look for the answer, and it will just basically, it basically knows that it needs to look in this part of the JSON, and it will just get the competitors from here. So yeah, going back, basically, these are basically both of our tools. And finally, once we've done all of this, we've wired the output from this AI agent to the Gmail node. The Gmail node is super simple. I've connected my Gmail account to this. I selected the resource as message. I want to send a new email or a message. And the operation is that I don't want to do any of other of those things. I just need to send it to, who do I need to send it to? I need to send it to, you can just look this expression up in n8n's documentation as well. n8n documentation. You can go to this part in the current node input, and you can just take a look at all of the ways in which you can just access the input. There is also a very easy way for you to autocomplete this as well. So for example, if I come here, I don't know, for example, who do I want to send it to? So if I just click here, it'll ask me drag an input field from the left to use it here. So I can either drag the output, I can either drag, just a minute. Yeah, I have an n8n form trigger. Basically, I need the email address here, right? So I can just drag it from here and paste it here. Yeah, I can paste it here and it'll just do the same thing, right? Or if you want to get a little more advanced, you can just write it on your own as well. I have an engineering background, so it's easy for me to write code, but for you, it should be drag and drop. I want the subject to be your research report for the same thing. I just drag it from here. I want it to be NVIDIA, so I just do this. I just drag it from here, and I can just put it here. Same thing. I want the email type to be HTML, and I want the message to be whatever we got from the AI agent. So that I click on AI agent. I want the output to be here. I can just drag it here. It'll have the same. It'll do the same thing. So yeah, it's basically that. And let me undo this to what I'd already done. So yeah, and this is basically how I can just send an email. If I were to quickly test this step, it would gather all of those things from the back. It would gather the form's email address. It would gather the subject, like your research report for whatever it is, and it would gather the message from the AI agent's output. The AI agent's output is here is a detailed overview of any NVIDIA's competitors and whatnot, and we'll just send that email. So yeah, this basically marks the end of our workflow. It is a very super basic agent. Let me know in the comments what you think about this. And also let me know how easy it was to follow through. If you think we need to basically build all of this in real time and that would be easier for you, I'm happy to do that as well. But I just thought like having something which is already working, it has two tools that would really put things in perspective and have you go from a simple form to a structured email where you would get the competitor research. Oh, and this is by no means a final version of a competitor analysis AI agent that you can have. There are still lots of things left to do. For example, we could do maybe we could do some of the research on their stock price, some research on what kind of roles they are hiring from within another tool. Maybe scrape LinkedIn or just scroll job boards for that specific company. We could analyze their last earnings call or their last financial reports and have news from them as well. We could get their user feedback from some feedback review websites and whatnot. So you could just add a huge array of tools over here as well, make it as detailed as you want it to be, and and then you could basically have a very detailed email for all of your competitors. Think of it this way: wherever you're working right now, you might want your boss to be in better picture in terms of the competitors, and this could be a very easy way to do that, right? So rather than having it trigger on filling a form, you could have it trigger on a schedule, and this could just run forever in the background. Just send your boss a report every at the start of every Monday, and it would have a comprehensive report. It would help you keep a tab on what they're doing, the latest research they're doing, what's working for them and what's not. And yeah, in that case, it could be helpful. If you want to deploy it as a one-off tool, I think this is perfectly fine. You can just test workflow here. It would give you this form. You enter the email address and it'll just do its thing. Yeah, so this is basically it. This is the kind of thing that you can build in roughly an hour with n8n.io and Perplexity and Gmail and OpenAI. And when I showed this to a couple of friends, they said that this could be useful and they might want to just use it in their real life. So if you're one of those people, you might just want to go ahead in the description and fill the form if you want to use this. If you've got enough interest in this, we'll build it out as a 100% complete AI agent and give you guys free early access for this. Yeah, let me know in the comments how you feel about this tutorial. If you just change anything in the tutorial, if you want me to go in more detail or lesser detail in some areas. So yeah, this is our first video, our first AI agent, and stay tuned to the channel and we'll be posting a lot of AI agents in the coming weeks. Have a good day.